In the biggest ever self-dunk, the Sense Islam channel tries to use Tom Holland as an example of why you need Islam. But in fact, they failed so badly that they ended up disproving their own point by using him as an example. In this video, we're going to go through what Tom Holland did to improve his life and why you actually don't need Islam in order to make this change, as he himself shows. Take a look. Let's see what they said and why they got it so wrong. So Tom Holland, the actor known for his recent roles in the Spider-Man movies, has made a big change in his life. And this Islamic channel wants to take credit for it. They want to give the credit all to Allah and Islam. Not only do they take credit for the changes that he made, they also end up bashing atheism at the same time. So somehow this is an Islamic thing he did, yet at the same time, he's not Muslim. So which one is it? Let's take a look and see what they have to say. Tom Holland reveals biggest secret of his life. Okay, yeah, right. Biggest secret of his life. That's not the biggest secret of his life. This is something good he did. We're going to get into that.
Assalamu alaikum, brothers and sisters. I hope you are well. In a recent candid interview, actor Tom Holland opened about his personal struggle with alcohol and the transformative journey he embarked upon to achieve sobriety. Tom confessed that during the initial phase of giving up alcohol, he found himself constantly thinking about it. The grip of addiction can be relentless, and it took immense willpower and determination for him to push through this challenging period. But he persevered, recognizing the detrimental impact alcohol was having on his life and his emotional well-being.
I want to rewind something, and I want to point out something they said which was subtle, but it's a really important point.
Brothers and sisters, I personal struggle with alcohol and the transformative journey he embarked upon to achieve sobriety. Tom confessed that during the initial phase of giving up alcohol, he found himself constantly thinking about it. The grip of addiction can be relentless, and it took immense willpower and determination for him to push through this challenging period. But he persevered, recognizing the detrimental impact alcohol was having on his life and his emotional well-being.
Ah, there we have it. He persevered. Now, the interesting thing is, this is an Islamic channel, and they're actually taking credit for this, saying this is an Islamic injunction to not drink alcohol. But what does it have to do with Tom Holland and his sacrifice? Well, of course, they want to say, well, look, Tom Holland, he suffered so much, right, under alcohol. And look, Islam says don't drink alcohol, so Islam must be right. Of course, right? That's what they're saying. So as someone that's a former religious Muslim, I never drank alcohol until my 30s. I'm going to tell you what I think about alcohol after we hear what they have to say.
And struggled against his desires and battled against them so that he could get rid of his alcohol addiction. This struggle against one's own desires is known as jihadun nafs. The greatest battle is the battle against one's own desires. It pertains to the individual's internal battle with their nafs, the lower self or ego, as they endeavor to conquer temptations, carnal desires, and the insidious whispers of the devil. When someone claims to be an atheist, he is indeed lying, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has designed man in such a way that he always has a master. He is either a slave of the Creator or the slave of his own nafs. The one who is a slave to his own nafs is similar to nothing but an animal, as only animals act according to their desires. Only animals act according to their desires. When one chooses not to give in or fall into the desires and temptations, then the result will be always fruitful. While on the other hand, the person who follows the commands of his desires will never be able to find peace and tranquility. The youth often see the
So here we have them admitting that those that follow the desire, right, are the ones who end up messed up. That's interesting, because Tom Holland is not attributing any of this to Islam or even... So if that's the case, isn't he just an animal? Isn't any atheist that gives up drinking just an animal? But apparently even animals can give up drinking. So what's the message here? The message is inconsistent and incoherent, because on one hand, you have them saying that, oh, only animals, atheists always worship their desires. Either they worship God or they worship their desires. But here you have example, case study, which they themselves brought up, of this famous movie actor who himself, out of his own accord, identified the problem. He explained to us the problem was...
Decided to just give up for January. I just wanted to do dry January, and all I could think about was having a drink. It's all I could think about. I was waking up thinking about it. I was checking the clock, when's it 12? And it just really scared me. I just was like, wow, maybe I have a little bit of an alcohol thing. So I sort of decided to punish myself and say, I'll do February as well. I'll do 2 months off. If I can do 2 months off, then I can prove to myself that I don't have a problem. 2 months go by and I was still really struggling. I felt like I couldn't be social. I felt like I couldn't go to the pub and have a lime soda. I couldn't go out for dinner. I was really, really struggling. And I started to really worry that maybe I had an alcohol problem. So I decided that I would wait until my birthday, which is June 1st. I said to myself, if I can do 6 months without alcohol, then I can prove to myself that I don't have a problem. And by the time I had got to June 1st, I was the happiest I've ever been in my life. I could sleep better. I could handle problems better. Things that would go wrong on set that would normally set me off, I could take in my stride. I had such better mental clarity. I felt healthier. I felt fitter.
That alcohol was ruining his life. He was drinking too much. He noticed it was getting in the way of his own well-being. So he stopped. He didn't throw out the baby with the bathwater. He didn't, go over the top and become a fundamentalist. No, you don't need any of that. All of that's flack, right? And at the end of the day, this demeaning, dehumanizing, atheists are bad, atheists worship their desires. It's just nonsense. It's just stupid because it's not true. And you don't need Islam to tell you not to drink. You really don't.
When one chooses not to give in or fall into the desires and temptations, then the result will be always fruitful.
So clearly we can make a decision for ourselves. We can decide. We can not give in to our desires. We don't need Islam for that. What do I think? What do I personally think about alcohol? I'll tell you in just a second.
While on the other hand, the person who follows the commands of his desires will never be able to find peace and tranquility. The youth often see the glamorization of alcohol and its promotion by megastars, believing it's harmless. However, they often overlook the mental health struggles of celebrities like Hollywood stars who suffer from alcohol and drug abuse. These stars sacrifice fame and money for unworthiness. The use of drugs and alcohol can inflict lasting harm on your internal organs such as your heart, liver, and brain. Additionally, the chances of stroke and life-threatening infections escalate significantly. Apart from health risks, alcohol ruins mental health. Usman Raziallahu Ta'ala Anhu said, "Stay away from wine, for it is the mother of wickedness. By Allah, faith and addiction to wine cannot be combined, but one of them will eventually expel the other." There's a reason for each and every command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There's a reason why something is strictly prohibited by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows.
The reason it's strictly prohibited is because Muhammad wanted his soldiers not to be drunk. He wanted them to be able to remember the Quran and not mix up the words. So he forbade it. Everything in Islam is done for Muhammad's sake, for Muhammad's gain. None of it was for the benefit of the individual. I mean, maybe I'm being a little bit unfair here, and maybe we can argue that this is also out of care for his own followers. Sure. But this is not coming from any divine wisdom. Yes, in my opinion, now I'm going to tell you, I do agree that alcohol is bad. But I totally disagree in what they're saying, in that alcohol has actually become far less popular nowadays. In fact, many beer companies in America, Canada are struggling now because the new generation is not having as much alcohol. They're having weed instead, or they're just not having anything. So actually, alcohol sales are down, right? Without Islam. Personally, I'm convinced that alcohol is a net negative overall, even though I personally drink. And the reason for that is because I think that with anything else in life, there's harms and benefits, right? Like eating meat, right? For example, smoking. And you have to decide for yourself whether on the balance for you, if it's actually beneficial or not. Once in a while, once a week, twice a week, when I go out, I like to have a drink. I feel like it reduces social anxiety. It makes it easier to, laugh and do these things that, to chill. So it's a social lubricant. From that perspective, I do enjoy it. I do enjoy having a beer once in a while watching a movie, but I'm a very light drinker. I never got into it. I never got drunk. None of this stuff. And I do agree that on the whole, it's bad for you. It's cancer causing. It's bad for your heart. It's overall a negative. That being said, I don't believe it's something that we should ban, but this is something as a society we have to decide. It's always going to be a challenge to balance out individual benefit versus collective benefit, the benefits to the whole society versus individual choices. Individual freedom versus individual harm is another axis that we'd have to look at. Should we let people do things that are harmful to themselves? To some extent, yes. Sometimes no. It depends again on the societal values. But there's no divine wisdom here. It's literally one thing Islam got right. And in fact, Islam goes too far in many other things. And whenever you have a system like Islam, it's going to get some things right and some things wrong. It's going to have some things which will benefit certain individuals more than others. For example, banning interest helps people that are bad with money and tend to borrow too much money on interest. Yeah, those people will be benefiting. But for example, business people that do well with leverage, people that can use interest to grow, to take loans and grow their businesses and make multiple amounts of money, those people will be actually worse off with Islamic rules on financing. So it all depends, right? There's a cost and benefit to each one. In this case, in this video, they are taking the prize unfairly, unjustly. Tom Holland, he did this all on his own. This has nothing to do with Islam. I mean, this guy, he figured out this was bad for him. He cut it out of his life, and good for him. This is what we need. We need people to see that when something is not going well for you, without any religious dogma, you give it up and you better yourself. And sure, Islam does help people like this. Thankfully, this guy didn't fall into Islam. But like some people it feels like they need religion to tell them. But in my opinion, you don't need religion to tell you to be a better person. You can do it on your own. We all have it inside of us. People are not living up to the true potential when they're giving into religion, because then along with that benefit, there's a lot of other things that come along for the ride, right? Which you are losing out on. Personal freedom and, personal choice and all of the collective things you have to do now to behave as a Muslim in order to, comply and to fit in. If you're a woman wearing hijab, if you're a man, all these other things. At the end of the day, we don't need Islam to tell us not to drink alcohol. We can choose for ourselves. We can make that decision just like Tom Holland did. So in fact, this entire video is self-refuting. It's incoherent. The point they made was superficial and shallow. Islam is not needed and will never be needed to get people away from alcohol. In fact, people are doing that on their own already and choosing other things, right? So that's it. That's my message for Sense Islam. Tom Holland's big secret is you don't need Islam to give up alcohol. Sorry, you guys just did a self-dunk on yourselves. That's what I have to say. Thanks for watching. I'm your friendly ex-Muslim. Do subscribe if you're new here. Join the Patreon if you'd like to support the channel. Stay subscribed. Leave a comment. Let me know what you think about this video. This is your friendly ex-Muslim, Abdullah Samir, signing out.